From border taxes to trade policy to health care in Congress, there are signs of divides within Republican Party. Which economic promises will actually be enacted? Joining us now is Senator David Perdue of Georgia. Welcome to you, Senator.
Good morning, Sarah.
The only Fortune 500 senator in Congress, I think, is part of your bio, so perfect guest for us on this topic of the economic agenda. You've seen the markets rally so strong on some of the hopes of this economic promise. Are they in doubt? Issues like corporate tax reform because of the splits we're starting to see in your party.
Well, Sarah, what we've seen so far is the bond market and indeed the stock market is pricing in growth. They're anticipating what this president's talking about will actually work. Pull back on regulations, change this archaic tax code, lower the corporate rate, get rid of some of the corporate culture or corporate welfare out there, and eliminate this repatriation tax. Look, business knows that's going to work. And I'll tell you the other thing, consumer confidence is ebbing up ever so slightly right now. So we're on the cusp of a real turnaround here, I think, Sarah.
But when it comes to the divisions in the party, can you just address that? Because It's happening on health care. It's happening within the very issue you speak of around the border adjustment tax. I know you're not in favor of it, but some of the most senior members of your party, including House Speaker Ryan, is.
Well, we're at the debate stage now, but we have a president that's been in office, 7 weeks now or so. And I have full confidence that this president, if we can implement his agenda, we're going to get this economy going. What we have going on right now in the Senate, though, is I'm concerned about people who are so concerned about getting to perfect that we're not going to get to an 80% solution that gets this economy going. I believe that health care and taxes are the two issues of the day that will get the economy going, in addition to pulling regulations back. So what we've got to do, I think, in the Senate is put self-interest aside and focus on the national interest. What really is going to be necessary to grow this economy? It's not that complicated.
Yes, but you know how the sausage gets made. So let's talk about the border adjustment tax. You've called it regressive, hammers consumers, shuts down economic growth, and has proven to grow the federal government. How are you going to convince your fellow Republicans of that? And then how does tax reform and lower corporate taxes get paid for?
Well, I think we've already convinced the Senate that the border adjustment tax is a bad idea. Look, I watched this in Europe. I lived over there, and when they did something very similarly, it caused really the economy to shut down, and also their government grew dramatically. So this is the only reason we're talking about border adjustment tax right now is to pay for the corporate rate reduction, the elimination of repatriation, and the reduction of individual rates. Well, that comes out of the scoring mechanism up here behind the CBO, and there are ways that we can deal with that. I just think that we should not put a bad idea along with these great ideas the president wants to implement, because that'll cause us to really shut down this opportunity we have to really change our tax structure, get this economy going again.
But, Senator, I think proponents of the border adjustment tax would say, well, we face it all the time when our goods are sold overseas in the form of a VAT.
Yeah, well, you know, that's a very, very shallow argument, because here's the reality. What we should be talking about is trade. Look, individual tax reform, corporate tax reform, repatriation tax elimination, and bilateral trade will absolutely put us on a level playing field. To create a level playing field, we don't need to do it in our own corporate tax structure. Let me tell you why. Because we have different trade agreements with most of these countries. So one tax change won't give us a level playing field with everybody out there.
That said, we had Gary Cohn on Friday talking about this being deficit neutral, that being tax reform overall if we get there. How do we get to a deficit neutral? Even if we dynamic score it and assume a higher GDP growth rate, how do we get there over 10 years if we don't have a significant revenue-raising portion of tax reform?
You just highlighted what's really wrong in the process. The budget process is broken. Since 1974, we've only funded the government 4 times under this process. In the last 42 years, we've only passed 2.5 appropriation bills. This is ridiculous. And that's what's binding our hands right now in terms of fixing this. Look, the United Kingdom in 2009 eliminated their repatriation tax and lowered their corporate rate from 30 to 20. They're about to do it again. And their economy came out just like ours will. So what this is an accommodation to a very bad budget policy, and we've got to get around there, and there are ways to do that.
Finally, wanted to ask you about the Fed. It is Fed Day. It's a huge deal for us. We are expecting higher interest rates this afternoon, third since the financial crisis. Do you think that that's going to hurt the economic reform agenda if the Fed starts to pick up the pace of its tightening, strengthening the dollar, and potentially getting in the way of all this optimism?
I really don't. I think that we've got a budding enthusiasm out there that's not going to turn around. I think this president has ignited this enthusiasm, this renewed spirit of optimism out there. That's not going to, this one interest rate change is not going to change that. But let me tell you what I'm concerned about. This $20 trillion of debt, the 150 basis points of increase in rates we've seen over just the last 15 months means that we've got a tremendous increase, $150 billion of new interest we're going to have to face up to. We've got to fix this budget process and get our spending under control. This debt is phase 2, and the president's talking about that right now. He mentioned it in his speech to Congress. Right now, we got to get the economy going, fix our tax system, solve the healthcare problem, pull back on regulations, and deal with bilateral trade. And oh, by the way, we're going to nominate and confirm a new Supreme Court justice as well, which will also calm the markets.
It's a busy agenda. Senator Perdue, thank you for joining us to talk about all of it. David Perdue, the senator from Georgia, also the former CEO of Dollar General and Reebok.